Hello, LR and VOG Network. This is SSJ Wonder Matt. I am sending you the first ever video email to the mailbag. Now that the show is on Twitch, I figure this will be a fun way to send an email. It also gives Rob's voice a little bit of a rest so he doesn't have to read anything. So for years you've heard me and along with many others talk about MAGFest. I know that I've called in several times over the years to talk about it. And the one thing I always notice is that I have a hard time articulating and explaining what MAGFest is all about. Now that we have this wonderful platform of video, I figured why don't I just show you what MAGFest is all about. Now over the course of the weekend I took some pictures and shot some video and to kind of really show what my experience is there. Now don't worry podcast listeners, I'll do my best to explain what I'm showing. But enough about me, let's get to it. So MAGFest is short for Music and Gaming Festival, and it takes place just outside of Washington, D.C. at the Gaylord National Hotel and Convention Center. The show runs 24 hours non-stop from Thursday to Sunday. The place hosts the panels, concerts, and various forms of gaming and fandom. The show is run by fans for fans. It's not corporate run, and none of the major studios or console makers are there. It has a strong, independent feel, and almost feels like a big video game party with your friends. First thing I'm going to talk about is the music portion of the festival. Throughout the weekend in the Grand Ballroom of the Convention Center, various video game cover bands and chiptune artists took the stage. This year's group of talent was a stacked roster of artists such as MC Frontalot, the Tiberian Sons featuring Command & Conquer composer Frank Klepacki, and friend of the VOG Network Megaran. There was also a chiptune rave hosted by a slew of DJs. One concert that I really enjoyed was the Bit Brigade, who played the entire Mega Man 2 soundtrack while a player speedran the entire game. It was definitely a fun experience. Now the last concert I really enjoyed was performed by Brennelfoss. He performed at the Gaylord Hotel lobby bar, which was a first for the festival. It was really cool to kind of see him perform in a piano bar sort of environment.
Galaxy, you get to play as Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, or Toad. So pound the ground, cause you found a mother lode.
Now the cute aspect that I like about MAGFest is the music wasn't just dedicated to the concert halls. In these little squared off spaces known as jam pods, people can bring in an instrument or DJ setup to just jam out. It's kind of like MAGFest's take on street performers, but it's just regular attendees playing a DJ set or an artist covering gaming tunes. Moving on to the rest of the festival, one of the big draws to MAGFest is downstairs at the Expo Hall. The Expo Hall is home to a vendors hall, the MAGFest Indie Game Showcase, as well as the console, free play, and arcade room. Now both the arcade and console room are open free to play 24 hours non-stop during the duration of the festival. There are over 100 arcade machines that are provided by collectors and vendors from around the area and are all set on free play. No quarters or tokens required, and again, they're running 24 hours the whole weekend. If you have an itch to play a game at 3 AM, you certainly could. So the arcade hall was split up into different sections. There was an area called Candyland that had a lot of Japanese-style sit-down arcade cabinets which had various fighting games and bullet-hell shooters all loaded onto them. There was a Japanese import and music game area that had a lot of Beatmania games like Poppin' Music, Beatmania 2DX, U-Beat, as well as Technica. Various versions of Pump It Up and DDR were also there. There were just a ton of games there, including Initial D and Bishibashi, just to name a few. There was a great selection of retro machines as well. I got to play some of my favorite machines like Road Blasters, Virtual On, Dragon's Lair, and Tempest. One great sight was seeing a F-Zero AX full-motion arcade machine. Those were really hard to find and it was a huge line the whole weekend to play it. This year had probably the biggest showing of pinball machines. There were so many machines, both new and old, that were fun to play. There were dual table machines. There were tables from both big companies and small companies. There were tables with LCDs. There were tables that were just giant. There were just tables that I had never seen before. If you were a pinball fan, there was a table for you. Now on top of all that, there were periodic tournaments in the arcade hall, ranging from games like Killer Queen to Windjammers to pinball tournaments to even a claw machine tournament. There was just so much to do in the whole arcade hall this year. Let's talk about indie games. The MAGFest Indie Game Showcase is always a treat and a great spot to see and meet a lot of indie developers. Friend of the show YYR has showcased there a few times. One game I really liked is a game called Soundfall by Drastic Games. Soundfall is a music-driven dungeon crawler where players hack and slash their way through levels to the beat of music. The game looks beautiful and extremely well done. Be sure to check it out when it comes out this year on PC, Xbox One, PS4, and Switch. Now, the Indie Showcase isn't just dedicated to games that are set for mass release. There's some really wacky arcade machines as well. Some of these are just proof of concepts and not meant for mass release. One game in particular had you control characters using 4 juicers. As you can see here, users touch the direction they want to move their character that's on the screen using said juicer and oranges that were supplied. In the console hall, you can rent out various consoles and games at MAGFest's massive library to play at any time during the weekend. Say if you wanted to play Adventure on the Atari 2600 or Time Splitters on the PS2 at 3 AM, then you can just come on down to the hall and play them. There are over 100 TVs set up for people to play any game they wanted to in MAGFest's game library, and even run a tournament if you wanted to. One of the highlights of the Expo Hall that has become a frequent guest over the years to the festival are the Battletech pods. The Battletech pods are a fun experience where you can play a 10-minute free-for-all mech battle against other people in a fully enclosed pod with flight controls. After your game, you are even giving a printout of the complete stats of your match. There were about 8 pods there and were provided by a group called Virtual World from Michigan. All these machines, despite being built in the early 90s, were extremely well maintained and taken care of. And of course, they were free to play and were running 24 hours throughout the festival. Now, outside of the Expo Hall, MAGFest had a lot going on this weekend. There were a ton of different panels running at all times during the festival. There were voice actor panels, there were celebrity Q&As from people like WWE wrestler and hardcore gamer Xavier Woods. There were panels about teaching people how to make things. There was a class about how to make your own chainmail armor. There was a class taught by Freddie Wong about video editing. There were even some strange panels, like the lore and mythos of Disney's Haunted Mansion. The one panel that I've been waiting to go for years, but never got a chance to, was the Yoga for Gamers panel. It is something that's always popular, but I just never had the time to do it, but now I made the effort to try it out. This class was taught by an actual yoga instructor, who played some calming video game music while we did yoga. I'd never done yoga before, and for a first-timer, this was a really fun experience. Some have said that MAGFest has gotten too big and has outgrown its venue. I don't dispute that MAGFest has certainly exploded and has even branched out into other festivals like Mag Labs and MAGWest. But this year's show had so much going on that the crowds felt spread out. There were the concerts, there were the panels, there were the cosplay and LARP scene, the Expo Hall, there was laser tag, there were bridge commander rooms and demo scene rooms. There was a classic computer museum, which I'm showing right now. There was also a massive board gaming room, which moved to a different location this year. Anyways, it did not feel like the 22,000 plus attendance that MAGFest reported this year. The crowd really just felt spread out and manageable. This was certainly one of the better MAGFests that I attended all my years of going. The staff of MAGFest really focused on being inclusive and accessible to everyone. Like there were gender-neutral bathrooms. At registration, pronoun ribbons were provided for people who wanted one. MAGFest even provided listening impaired attendees licensed sign language interpreters. All in all, the vibe at MAGFest felt great this year. The big complaint that most people have, though, was the hotel situation. Despite there being 5 hotels within walking distance of the festival, those tend to sell out quickly. I, for example, had to stay off-site 2 miles away because I did not luck out with the hotel lottery system that MAGFest has. But even that turned out fine because The travel to the show through shuttle and ride sharing was manageable and easy. All in all, I had a great time at MAGFest this year. If you're a gamer of any kind, I can't recommend MAGFest enough for you. So that pretty much wraps it up for me. I hope you enjoyed this video email and this little trip to MAGFest with me. And I hope this video inspires you to make your own video content for the show. But anyways, back to the show.